Hello, I'm Sheldon Baker, editor for Innovision Health Media. My guest today on Healthy Bytes is Dr. Daniel Amen. Dr. Amen is an adult and child psychiatrist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. He is known for his work in brain health and mental wellness and is the founder of Amen Clinics, which has the world's largest database of brain SPECT scans. He also founded Brain MD, a nutraceutical company, and Amen University, which trains professionals in his methods. Dr. Amen has produced 19 national public television shows, and his online videos have been viewed by over 1 billion times. He's the author of numerous books, including Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, and The End of Mental Illness. Dr. Amen, welcome, and thank you for joining me on Healthy Bytes.
So nice to see you again.
Thank you. So, get into it. What is the toxic brain, and how can we flush out brain toxins?
Well, as a psychiatrist, I got virtually no training in toxins and the impact on brain and mental health. When I started looking at the brain in 1991, I was the director of a substance abuse treatment unit, and their brains just looked so bad. And a toxic brain is decreased in blood flow and activity. SPECT, the study we do at Amen Clinics, measures blood flow and activity, and the scans just looked older than the people were. And then I realized there were people who had those scalloping, toxic-looking brains, but weren't drug addicts and weren't using alcohol. And it was at that point, like, well, what else is causing it? And then you learn about mercury and lead and mold and pesticides, smog. And you realize there are many things, including general anesthesia, that can be toxic to brain function. And obviously with a better brain comes a better life. So toxins can damage your life.
Researchers have uncovered a new factor that could contribute to Alzheimer's disease development. A study by Harvard Medical School identified low lithium levels in the brain as a possible trigger for common dementia. Your thoughts?
Well, we know low lithium levels are associated with suicide and depression. If you were raised in a community that has low lithium in the soil, you're just a lot more likely to be depressed. Depression doubles the risk of Alzheimer's disease in women and quadruples it in men. And so, we often talk about mercury and lead being too high, but now it seems pretty clear that lithium too low can cause mental health problems, but also cognitive problems.
You have said MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is a dream come true. Where are we today with this movement?
Well, I'm so excited because at the highest levels of government, there are people who think, like I've thought for the last 30 years, that they're sort of in charge now, whether it's RFK Jr. and HHS or Mehmet Oz at CMS. We're going to make a big difference in the brain and mental and physical health of this country, and it's already started.
And you were recently invited to meetings, I believe, in DC regarding MAHA. What did you come away with from those meetings?
Well, the people in charge are serious and they have a bias for action. And so I fully expect over the next 3.5 years that there are going to be policies in place, like you cannot buy sodas and candy on food stamps. I mean, it just makes so much sense. We're going to help you because you don't have enough resources, but we're not going to help you be sick. And, people get upset. It's like, well, you're, a nanny state. And it's like, no, we're just a rational state. That why would we spend money on no neurotoxins? Uh, I'm just so excited. I'm working with the White House Faith Office on creating a national brain health revolution. And we're hoping early next year the president will declare the next 10 years as the decade of brain health. And I'm really, as I think about this and try to orchestrate it, it's what if America became the world's first brain healthy nation? Now, we have a long way to go, but you have to have a goal. And that's the moonshot is, so how would that work? How would we become the world's first brain healthy nation? And it's not hard. What if every day we got schools, businesses, churches, families, individuals to just ask themselves one question? Whatever I'm doing today, is it good for my brain or bad for it? And if you can answer that one question with information and love of yourself, love of your family, love of the reason you're on the planet, you just start making better decisions. And quite frankly, there's a lot of confusion about what's good and what's bad. But I went into my daughter's second grade class a number of years ago, and I wrote 20 things on the board. And I'm like, put them in categories for me, good for your brain or bad for it. They got 19 out of 20 right. The only thing they missed was orange juice, which they put in the good category. And I argue it's in the bad category because whenever you unwrap fructose or fruit sugar from its fiber source, it turns toxic in your body. And so for most of the things, people really do know what's good and what's not. The confusing things like alcohol and marijuana, the corporate America has made us believe. Last year, Anheuser-Busch spent $7.2 billion on sales and marketing, sort of making us think not only is it fun and you'll get sexy women if you drink, but that it's good for your health. And that's a lie. And the idea that marijuana is innocuous is really dumb because teenagers who use have an increased risk of anxiety, depression, suicide, and psychosis in their 20s. And so, but Sheldon, it goes back to this one question. Whatever I'm doing, is it good for my brain or bad for it? And if I can get that one question pervasive throughout society and get people to love their brain because it is the only organ where size matters, that we need to have this revolution.
Very good. Let's hope changes are made. You have this idea that mental illness is often a misnomer for brain illness, but that may not be the case. There could be, or are there other issues?
I hate the term mental illness. And I've always hated it. So I decided to be a psychiatrist 46 years ago, and I hated it then because it's wrong. It shames people. Call someone mental, and you shame them. Call them a brain, and you elevate them. These are not mental. I mean, what does that even mean? It's mental. These are clearly, whether we're talking about anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, they're brain health issues. And when you get the physical functioning of your brain better, then your mind works better because the physical functioning of your brain creates your mind. And what that means, though, ultimately, is you have to get your body healthy. Because if your body's not healthy, your brain is not healthy, and then your mind is not healthy.
So I come to the Amen Clinic, and some people say I should. I won't mention those people by name. How does your method work?
Well, if you came to see us, we did a great podcast last week with Julius Randle. He's the superstar power forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And he came to see me a year ago, so it's public, because he wanted to be better and he was smoking too much pot. And now in the NBA, you're allowed to smoke as much pot as you want. They just don't test for it. And his wife said he was a different person, and she didn't like that. And so we looked at his brain. So we take really detailed history, so we get to know the story of your life. We would test your brain. How does it work? And we would image you once at rest, once when you do a concentration test. And Julius's brain looked older than he was. It had that toxic, scallopy look that you get with marijuana. His brain also deactivated. What does that mean? When he tried to concentrate, he got less activity in his brain, common with people who have ADD. And his emotional brain was working too hard, which is common in people who have childhood trauma, which he did. And we would then, you've heard it said, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a map is worth 1,000 pictures. A map tells you where you are and gives you direction on how to get to where you want to go. And without a map, you're lost. So we mapped his brain, we developed a plan, he worked the plan really well. I'm very proud of him. He saw a scan. He didn't smoke pot anymore. Took the supplements, did the therapy I wanted him to do. When we rescanned him a year later, his brain's dramatically better. And I'm just so excited for him. And that's the process. Get to know you, map your brain, intervene, and often we'll map it again to go, how are we doing?
So no drugs, diet. What are some other treatments you might offer for brain health?
Well, I mean, we may use medication if medication is helpful. I have an acronym I like a lot called Bright Minds. You want to keep your brain healthy or rescue it, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors. So for example, B is for blood flow. Low blood flow is the #1 brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease. And so things like exercise increases blood flow, but also hyperbaric oxygen can work. And from a nutrient or supplement standpoint, ginkgo, huge fan of ginkgo because it increases blood flow. And foods that increase blood flow are things like cayenne pepper, rosemary, beets. The R is retirement and aging. When you stop learning, your brain starts dying. And another toxin is ferritin, because if ferritin, which is a measure of iron storage, is too high, it promotes aging. And so for people who have low levels of ferritin, we encourage them to eat more red meat or spinach, which is loaded in iron. And for people like me, where it tends to run too high, donate blood a lot to keep it at a healthy level. The I is inflammation, and you know it is the cause of so many illnesses. And often, you know, I get my patients to floss every day because gum disease is a major cause of inflammation. And virtually all of the population is low in omega-3 fatty acids. So I'm a huge believer in supplementing with omega-3 fatty acids. The G is genetics, and what's the intervention? Julius has one of the ApoE4 genes. That gene, if you have one or two of them, increases your risk of Alzheimer's disease 250% with one and 1,000% if you have both of them. And so what that means is Julius needs to be on an Alzheimer's prevention program his whole life, which is basically this Bright Minds program. H is for head trauma, a very common cause of psychiatric problems. See, that's why it's not mental health. If you get a concussion and then you're depressed, well, that's not a mental health problem. That's a brain health problem that is causing your depression. T is toxins, which we're talking about. The M is mental health stuff because, as we mentioned, depression increases the risk of dementia. And there I look at things like adverse childhood experiences on a scale of 0 to 10, how many bad things happened to you as a kid? What's your negativity versus positivity bias? Negativity goes with virtually every psychiatric symptom. And so we do positivity bias training, teach people to notice what they like a lot more than what they don't like. The second I in Bright Minds is immunity and infections, a major cause of psychiatric problems like COVID, Lyme disease, herpes, so on. The N is neurohormones, so we have them checked and optimized. D is diabetes, and with 70% of us overweight, 45% of us obese. If you're overweight, you have 10 of the 11 risk factors. It's just crazy how that works out, because being overweight lowers blood flow, promotes aging, turns on disease promoting genes, and so on. And then the S is sleep. And so we're always assessing and intervening on those risk factors. So it's not you come to see me and you go, I'm depressed. It's like, I think of depression like chest pain. Nobody gets a diagnosis of chest pain because it doesn't tell you what's causing it or what to do for it. If you're depressed, well, is your brain low in activity and I need to stimulate it? Or is it high in activity and I need to calm it down? Is it secondary to a series of concussions you had from car accidents or playing sports? Or is it because you had a flood in your basement, you're living in a mold-filled environment? And how would I really know unless I looked?
All very insightful information. Dr. Amen, thank you for being here today on Healthy Bytes.
Sheldon, so great to see you again. Thanks for helping me spread this message.
Indeed, and thanks to all of you for watching Healthy Bytes.